All right, so thanks everybody for coming to the session. I did this back at VMworld US and it was pretty much a hit, so I figured I'd bring it here and do it all over again. So my name's David Stamen. I'm a technical marketing architect with VMware, and my main focus was vSphere Lifecycle. With the announcement of Project Pacific, I'm kind of moving on there, but I still have a lot of stuff that I kind of like to carry over. And a lot of this was automating of VCSA updates. We have a lot of CLI-based tools that we can do for upgrades, but when it came to updates, I kind of saw through some of the release notes and a lot of the presentations I was doing that there was really all of these brand new APIs that were available, but I didn't really see anybody even trying to get started with them. And so to kind of start off with this, I kind of built two modules to really help a lot of people get started with figuring out how to automate these updates. The first one being a Postman module to be able to interact and see how these work. But when I did the Postman module, I kind of thought, well, this is just a one-to-one mapping. A lot of customers I talk to might have 10, 15, 20, 60 vCenters, and they may want to do certain tasks and have them be applied to all of them. And so that's where I brought in the Power CLI module to make this scalable. So to start off, we're going to talk about how do we actually patch the vCenter using the RESTful APIs, and how do you even understand how that works. And so the first thing you can do to understand what APIs are available is using API Explorer. If you go to the FQDN of your vCenter /API Explorer, you'll see this nice screen, and if you browse down into each thing, you will actually see what APIs are available. So in this case, this was appliance update, and I saw that I could actually see what the response was supposed to look like. I could actually see the curl command associated with that and actually understand the output. With 6.7, we've actually brought the API Explorer into the Developer Center as well. And so without having to worry about logging into a separate interface, you can do the exact same things here by going to API Explorer, going to the appliance update, doing get, and it actually executes those APIs in real time. But you may not always be actually logged into the vCenter you want to do these updates against. And so I saw a lot of other folks doing Postman, so I figured Postman might be a really great way to create a collection and have this available. So to get started, you'll need to download Postman, set up some simple variables, and you can actually download the Postman collection from GitHub. And so once we have all of that set up, we'll have this collection here on the left. So in this case, I have my variables set up with my servers, my usernames, my passwords. And so the very first thing you need to do prior to executing any call is you need to execute a login. And this is a live demo, and I'm going all the way back to California. I tested this a minute ago, and it kind of worked, so we might have to bear with it for a minute. And when you hit the login, it'll actually send the request to the server and establish the API token. Come on. This is the demonstrations. Let's see, let's try. Let's give this a minute. And if not, I can kind of go through screenshots. So there always is backups. Bear with me for one moment. See if VPN reconnects. If not, we'll go to the backup method. So in this case, the way we actually execute this is with the variables, we have the vCenter defined at the variable level. And with this, we actually call the session, and this will actually log in and get a token in order to be able to log in. That's not working right now. Once we have that, what we actually can do is I'll kind of go through this and see if it reconnects, and then we can actually do the demo. But using that session token for authorization, what we can actually do is calling the same vCenter server, we can actually execute the API call for the REST appliance update, and it'll actually check for your local and your online updates. This is the equivalent of logging into the vCenter appliance management interface and saying check for updates. At that point, it'll actually tell you what is going to be connecting. So in this case, you can either do URL and CD-ROM, or if you only want to check locally to your CD-ROMs, you can also do that as well. And I wish I could do the output, but I'll have to fall back on that in a second. Try to see if I can get this connecting. With that said, you can also, once you get that update, there will be an output of all of the screens. And I probably should have, I guess I had too much confidence in these demos. But with this, when you get the output, it'll provide the entire output in JSON format with the versions and everything there. And so with that, you'll see the version descriptions that are listed out. At that point, what we can do is right-click that version, and I have a variable called version that you can apply it to. So in this case, my version is defined to 6.7.0.3100, which is that internal ID. And that's not playing nice. Once that's there, that'll actually give you the full details. So things you would normally see in the appliance management interface, such as the time it takes to update, what's the impact to your services, are reboots needing to be required. Once that is there, we have the ability to kind of do a few more things in regards to the updates. We have the same API calls that can actually, based on that version, stage the updates. So we can kind of interact with all of these without actually impacting and inputting any information or typing out any details. I'm going to try to get this working while it's going. And sorry for this demo. This is also recorded onto the videos.vmworld.com site, so if I don't get the actual demos working, I hopefully will get that up and running. At this point, we can also look at all of the policy settings. So policies will define things such as the custom URLs, the time it takes to or the automatic schedule. And so from here, you can actually see in the moment of what that actually will take to get updated. Let's see. New ones. I have a feeling it is the Wi-Fi here. And so with this, I'll kind of do this and then I'll skip to the Power CLI one. But we have the ability to actually get the policies, set the policies, look at all of our updates. Once they're actually installed, we can do the pre-check, which is how it would utilize the same things you do through the UI. If an update is already staged, we have the ability to install that update. We have the ability to stage and install the update and validate. And the entire time that all of those tasks are running, we can just do a refresh of the check for status. And what that'll actually do is go out and check the status, because in real time, it's only going to give you an output of nothing saying that it's currently connecting. And so running the status update will allow you to continually check of what the latest status is as it installs. Is it at 5%, 10%, 15%, or if it's complete? All right. All right, that's not going to work. So I'll switch back to PowerPoint. So with that, I have an entire blog article, which I'll link to at the end, that kind of goes through and explains that. And so with it, after I did the API calls, I figured, well, Power CLI is a lot more consumable from a lot of end users. And so that's why I started with the Postman and then moved on to Power CLI. And so the Power CLI module, or Power CLI is very simple to install. Just install -module vmware.powercli. And then I have the Power CLI module available on GitHub as well. So all the setup takes is just running import module, vcsa vme patch, and at this point you'll be able to actually execute all of the commandlets that are available. And at first I thought that creating this function would be really hard, but just like community, is a lot of stuff is always based on stuff that other people have done, and there's no real need to reinvent the wheel. So by looking at the previous REST calls that I was able to identify previously, I could see that all I had to do was do a connect CIS server to my vCenter using my username and password. And then all I have to do is get the get CIS service for the appropriate actual update call. So with this, I was able to pretty much mirror every single call that was available. So get updates, get staged updates, install staged updates, install patches, get all of those policies. And with this, it's actually pretty documented of how each one actually works and the syntax that you need from there. And so hopefully, this will work and my Wi-Fi has connected. If not, I might need to like walk over there and see if I actually get reception. Disable, no. All right, so that's not going to work. So let's do this the other route. Let's go this route. Give me 1 second. And so hopefully I can just walk through the way everything is set up. And so with this, for example, the best part about this is that when we actually go through and utilize this, we actually have the ability to connect to multiple servers at the exact same time. So in this example, I have get CIS server, connect to that server. But if you have 10 servers you need to connect to, just do server 1, comma, server 2, comma, server 3. Yep, question. Uh-huh. Yes. Yep. So the question was, when you have vCenter HA enabled, you have to do witness passive there. Unfortunately, in recent builds, we've actually changed the way we actually patch vCenter HA enabled clusters, and now you're actually forced to destroy vCenter HA, patch it as a standalone node, and continue. So what you can do, building off of this, is we all have full RESTful APIs, and William Lamb has a Power CLI module already for vCenter HA. That using that module, you can remove vCenter HA, now run through these API calls to be able to patch the system, and then use the other calls to re-enable vCenter HA. So kind of working together, we have that. At some point, I hope we can build that into the product. But today, this is how we do this manually. That is a bust. So from here, we have the ability to set vCSA update policies, and there's a lot of things that can be done with this. But instead of having to worry about every little syntax you can do, the most common policy that you're going to want to change is the schedule. So instead of trying to figure out how to actually build your schedule, you can just do set vCSA update policy -text schedule, and then I have either daily, weekly, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to figure out what day of the week you run it to. If you actually want to set a custom URL, you can set the custom URL to the actual URL you want. Say you're using an internal repository, or if you just want to get rid of that custom URL because it no longer exists, you can actually just pass through the clear flag. So I've kind of built on some of the APIs that are available there, but also made it a little bit more accessible to the end users. And so we kind of see how everything translates here. We have the ability to actually check the status, check for the updates, connect here, get the details for the version, and I wish that that was functioning, but let me see if I can pull up this way. And of course, I almost don't know if it's the network because DNS decided to go down. Oh. That could be why. There was a magical network cable hiding. So, really quick do-over of everything. Postman module. We log in. Cork. That's where it was connected before. We can do the quick demos in about 5 minutes. As in US, the first session I did the entire session in 7 minutes. So spare with me, and I apologize. If not, this is always why it's fun doing live demos. Worked for a second, and now it's not working. There we go. That should connect. Let's get rid of that. And we're now going to connect. There we go. Perfect. All right, so now that we can connect, we send our API call. And it's probably sending it all the way over the ocean again. If not, I'll go to the fun demo. Let's just do it this way. So in this case, using Connect CIS Server, I can connect to my vCenters, all right? And so the very first thing we're going to want to do is get vCSA update. Like I said before, that's the equivalent of checking for updates. And so this version, I think, is 6.7 update 2, so there should be about 10 updates that are available after the fact. And so for right now, it's actually logging into both vCenters and doing that call for updates. And since I don't have any custom URLs set, it's going to pull them from the VMware Online Depot. In previous things, this took about 30 seconds. So hopefully we're still good on time. So at this point, it's going to return all the details for the patches and show which one is available from each server. What we'll then do is, now that we've identified all the details of the patches we wish to use, we can kind of branch out. We see that this one's 1.85 gigs, it's low severity, but it does require reboot, and that's the actual version number that's going to be applied. And it was actually released on July 16th. So this sounds like a good update, but I want to get more details. So I'm going to get vCSA update details, select the version, so in this case it's 6.7.0.32,000. And so now we can see here that it expands out the details a little bit more, telling us whether it's actually staged or not on our host and what services will actually be affected. We can also look at the policies, as I mentioned earlier. So we can see here that both my vCenters are configured to use the default URL for updates. They're going to check schedules on Mondays only, and they're set to auto stage. But I don't want to do just daily or weekly updates. I want to do daily updates. So I'm going to do get vCSA update policy. I want to do check schedule, and I'm going to set it to daily. And like I said, these are those pre-built-in variables that I did, so you don't have to worry about knowing the exact syntax of doing hour equals 0, day equals Monday, minute equals 0. And so in this case, if I go back and get our update policy, we now see that instead of just Monday, the day is now set to every day. And so now what I can do is I can actually go through and do start vCSA update. And in this case, for the sake of time, I'm going to do stage and install. I'm going to do version to that 6.7.0.32,000. And because we're passing through stuff, there's actually one additional variable that's needed, and it'll be the SSO domain password. And so at this point, when I select that version, it's going to tell us that during this time, we will get disconnected because the servers are rebooted, but we can actually run get vCSA update status to get details. So this should work for about a little bit of time, but we can actually see that on both vCenters, the install is in progress. It's going to be a two-stage process. The parent job is actually doing the stage, and that's running. The install task is still pending, waiting for that stage to be done. So as a matter of fact, instead of having to worry about logging in, I can just keep running get vCSA update status, and we can see here that it's running. Once the patch is staged, we'll then be able to go through and check the progress, and that'll complete. Once we're there, we can just rerun the Connect CIS service, log in, keep running that get vCSA status, and it'll tell us what the current status is of our patches. So this is hopefully beneficial to be able to manage your servers at scale. You may not want to go in and connect to 10 servers and just say, start updates right away. But it might be something that if you have like an air-gapped environment, you may want to configure the same internal repository against all of your servers. You may want to check for updates, stage your updates, or anything along those lines. Any questions? Yes. So snapshots are not incorporated. Snapshots aren't really ideal backups. The reasons I had for these are kind of to incorporate this, but there are APIs to do the file-based backup and restore. So kind of looking through a lot of this, you can kind of very easily stage it out. There's all of those APIs are available. The easiest way to kind of see what APIs are there is if you're not familiar with Data Center CLI, Data Center CLI is pretty much my new favorite tool because it kind of bridges RESTful APIs to Power CLI, and a lot of the same codes that may not be in either one might actually be there. And so for me, that was very easy and simplified to do. And I'll see if this works. No. Yeah. So now with the Postman, we can kind of go backwards in demos, but I've established that section. I can actually go through, get the same policy details, and again, this is a one-to-one mapping. I can get the staged updates, I can check for my updates, and in this case, I want to get the status. And because I'm actually doing the update in the background, we can see that the staged update, the staging is complete. It's at 49 steps, 10% is completed. Stage and install, the entire process is there. So you can still kind of see how we're going back and forth between it. It's kind of just, Postman's more of like a one-to-one mapping. The Power CLI was like a one-to-many mapping for me. And so before we wrap that up, it's skipped the whole thing because we lost internet. So I do have blogs, so I guess on here it doesn't really translate. The slides are available on the videos.vmworld.com site, but it will link to, I'll just pull up this way. If you go to my personal blog, that for some reason is not sharing onto that screen. So that's not it either. So davidstamen.com, and then I have patching the vCenter appliance using the RESTful APIs, and it pretty much will go through the same steps of how I kind of explain this, kind of gathering all the information, the ability it can do, how to actually utilize it, and examples of how to do each syntax. So it's a little bit more of a deeper dive than the 20-ish minutes that we have here today. And then I think here they're associated, so there should be a link to that. And you can easily find me on Twitter at @DavidStamen. My GitHub is @dstamen. And that's it. So thank you so much, and thank you for dealing with me with my technical difficulties.